Welcome to DynaVap Live. I am Retail Josh.
And I'm George.
And we have a very special episode for you discussing the brand new HydraVonG today, but we want to get some stuff out of the way first, such as thanking all of you for tuning in. We want to give a couple quick shout outs right out of the way. Orland from Bulgaria, Cody from Yakima, Washington. I think Pranav is out that way right now. And then we got one from Italy, Shuey from Detroit, John Charles from Albuquerque, Mike from North Carolina.
Aaron Reed from Tasmania.
That's
nice.
That's an interesting one. And so we want to thank you all for tuning in from wherever you are in the Dynaverse. We want to thank you very much. If you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. Be sure to ring the bell to be notified when we release more content. That way you never miss a stream, you never miss a release, and you never miss a sale. And so be sure to do that. And we also want to thank you for all those out in the Dynaverse, the FC Forum, Vapor Ents, the Dynaverse subreddit, the Instagram channel. Pranav has been doing a lot of neat stuff with the Instagram channel. He's been doing giveaways every week. And so be sure to check that out. Have the awesome photos of the HydraVonG teaser on there from Chronobus. We want to thank you for doing that. And be sure to send all your feedback, your suggestions using the contact form on the website. We love seeing those because that's what allows us to improve, make new types of devices such as the HydraVonG or the XLER. That was all due to customer feedback, so we want to thank you for that. And if you're already sharing the Dynaverse with your friends and family, be sure to look at our affiliate program if you haven't already. If you want more info on that, go to affiliate@dynavap.com to shoot an email on over there. Want to go back to you and get you all straightened out. And now I think we're going to start right away by giving away one of these really cool limited HydraVonG XLS with a tie spinning mouthpiece on it.
Yeah, let's do that.
We'll give that to Orlan from Bulgaria. So be sure to shoot your information over to Coley@dynavap.com. Just be sure to have your ID and everything ready because she's going to verify that you are who you are when you email. That way we make sure that you are the proud recipient of that beautiful limited HydraVonG.
Yeah, this is a really cool thing. Thanks for staying up late, by the way.
Yep.
So we had a few pieces of kind of developmental or various kinds of wood lying around the shop, and so we threw it in the machine and tried to see if we could make a really cool piece. So here you go. A little close-up for you if you want to kind of see what's coming.
That piece is just beautiful.
Oh yeah, it's just a nice little piece. So make sure you get in touch with Coley, and we're gonna send this one your way.
And I'm kind of gonna serve up another giveaway right now too. So the first person to guess how long exactly a stem is will win a HydraVonG XLS kit with a Cocobolo midsection. So it's going to be a very limited, one of a kind, at least for this time, HydraVonG kit. And so
something really cool.
First one to get that, you'll win that. So get it active in the chat and we'll announce the winner later on. And if you tune in routinely, you'll notice on our YouTube channel, we ask a new community question every single time. This week's episode for the community question was, what is your favorite vape cap feature? We had modularity, multiple heating options, efficiency, microdosing, and aftermarket options. Efficiency was the clear winner in this question. Why do you think that is, George?
I think it comes down to chamber size and also extraction time frame.
I know, like with a lot of competing vaporizers on the market, their oven or their size where you load your material tends to require a lot more material to get a full extraction and perform as well as it can.
It sure seems that way, and that's something that I didn't fully understand why, especially during the earlier stages of the development of this product. It's like, why does that need to be so big? And I think a big part of it is the people that were making these things were really kind of gearing towards a different demographic. And so when I started the development, I was constrained by a few things, mainly trying to figure out the thermodynamics and how to make this work and extract very efficiently and evenly out of the extraction chamber. And so I started with a smaller size, figuring I could get a more even thermal gradient across the entire chamber and all the material in it. And the result is it seems like many of the people that are buying our devices find them to be very efficient in extracting a large percentage of all of the desirable compounds, but also doing it in a very abbreviated time frame, which is, I think, another one of the key differences that you're going to find with our devices versus many other devices, is that since the extraction chamber is small and the mass is also small, they heat up very fast, but they also cool down very fast. Why does that matter? Because it matters because now your material is not sitting at not only vaporization temperature, but oxidation temperature any longer than is necessary for you to get a little bit...
Yeah, because our device is a hybrid. It's a combination of convection and conduction.
It certainly is. And to a certain degree, all devices are. It's just the ratios of convection versus conduction tend to vary a little bit from device to device. Some are a lot more conduction, a lot more convection. Ours tend to be a lot more of a mixture of the two, and because of the way that they're designed, especially with the airport, and we've talked about that before, but we can get into that a little bit more in this episode as well, it allows you to vary the ratio of conduction versus convection, which also changes and provides a different level and a different type of experience depending on what it is that you're looking for.
So I think that's a great answer to a really fun question. Now, for those of you who would like to see a specific question asked, mention in the comments or shoot us an email. What question would you like to see asked on our community tab on our YouTube channel? And so let's kind of get right into our main topic of discussion today, the brand new HydraVonG. Now, George, how did you come up with this design, and kind of explain the details and the functional improvements that we brought to it?
All right. Well, for starters, most people have noticed, with the pictures and some of the close-ups, that we've really changed the texture of the wood. Where, the original Vong was basically a modified cylinder, a relatively simple piece of turned wood that just about anyone with a lathe or some turning equipment could make. Still nice pieces of wood. They worked well. And then we got into the DynaVap. It's like, okay, let's see if we can step up our game a little bit and do something you don't generally see in the turned wood pieces, and to give the wood some flats and some facets, so we could really kind of show off the wood grain character, because I think the wood grain tends to be a little bit more prominent when you don't have a round surface. Even looking at some of the pieces I've got, like in my hand here, and I'll kind of throw it here close up for Bryce to zoom in. We look here, the wood grain tends to really be accentuated in some of the parts of the piece that aren't just round. And it's even more so when we get out of the bright lights, and especially when you get outside in the actual sunlight. So the flats help. The new channels in the device, which aren't flats, but they're actually more like carved channels, it tends to exaggerate that to even more significant degree. But even better than that, it gives it a whole new feel. And that's just something that I have a whole lot of appreciation for, is the user interface. It's something that when we hear the word user interface, we're almost always thinking, okay, the graphics on my computer screen or my phone, right? The user interface, user experience, the UI, the UX, it seems to kind of get lost in the shuffle when we're talking about actual tangible products that we can hold in our hand. But it's something that's really, really important to me, is when we're designing and making a product, I want to make a product that not only works well, but you want to touch it. Because in order to utilize our products, you have to touch them. So the tactile interface between the product and the person is an incredibly important attribute that plays a very significant role in terms of what we're doing and how we're designing it, and how things work.
And now with this new design, I noticed, because I've had mine since the first ones came off the machine when you're developing it, it's hard to pinch. It wants to rotate itself.
Yes.
Now, was that something when developing it that you wanted all along, or is it something that you just kind of came up with organically?
Well, it's definitely something that's part of the design process, because as most people that have these devices are aware of and familiar with, they tend to heat more evenly with flame-based heat sources if you rotate them. So making a device that's easy to rotate makes a device that's easier to use and easier to heat more evenly, so you get a better, more consistent experience each time. So one of the other objectives with the change in the geometry is, okay, how do we make this device so that it's not only easier to rotate, but almost as if it feels like it wants to rotate itself. And when we look closely at the channels, you're going to notice that they're angled. And they're angled in such a fashion that it's hard to describe, but when you actually hold one in your hand, you're going to find that just by clasping it between your thumb and your index finger, it almost wants to auto-rotate. And it's just kind of a really fun functional geometry that we've machined in here to make it want to rotate and make it very easy to rotate. And also, what we'll notice is, if we get another close-up here, when I'm holding the device and sliding my finger on it, I'm going to it's going to be very easy to feel when the transition begins to occur between the grooves that are more in line with the body or the stem and the grooves that are more kind of at an angle here as we get close to the hot part of the device or the tip. So if I slide my thumb or if I slide my fingers, I can very definitively feel this zone, which if we rotate, we're going to notice that that's the zone that's just above where the air port is. So I can easily find the air port without looking at it by just sliding my fingers and giving it a little bit of a rotation. Boom, I found exactly the spot on the device where I can directly and physically modulate my air and vapor ratio.
And now, one other thing that a lot of our eagle-eyed viewers, when we release the teaser, they notice that the airport design has changed. It's longer, it's more of an angle. Can you go into how that actually changes the airflow dynamics and how it improves the functionality of the device?
I'd love to do that because that's been one of my favorite changes. Don't get me wrong. I love the new, more organic feel and the way that the grooves give it just this interesting tactile nature to it, as well as kind of the auto rotation. But the airport, that's really some real magic. Okay, so we offset the airport, and we're utilizing the thickness of the wood because it's harder to do with the metal bodies and stems that we make because there's just not as much wall thickness to work with. But when we look real carefully at the airport, and I'm going to put this here and see if we can get Bryce to zoom way in on this airport so you can get kind of a real close-up. What we're going to notice is that the airport has a taper to it. Okay, so it's long, it's got a lot more surface area around the circumference, but if I can catch the light just right, what you'll see is that it's almost wedge-shaped. Okay, and what that means is when the air is coming into the airport, it's being funneled down. Okay, and if we understand what happens to the flows of fluids, when we funnel them down through a smaller orifice, we accelerate them. And as we accelerate the fluids, they start to almost create more turbulence, which creates more resistance to flow, which then allows for this airport, depending on how hard you're drawing on the device, to almost self-modulate without having to obstruct the airport. In other words, what it means is if we leave the airport completely unobstructed and we draw really hard on this device, whether it's natively or through a water piece, that kind of self-regulating feature of the airflow through this new shaped geometry of the airport is going to change the air and vapor ratio in terms of the incoming dilution air and conditioning air versus the amount of air coming underneath the cap and displacing the vapor out of the extraction chamber automatically. So you draw really hard and you're actually going to get more vapor than just dilution air, versus drawing lightly, you're going to get a lot more dilution air than you're going to get vapor. It's kind of a real fun play in terms of the fluid dynamics of what's going on right there.
Yeah, I personally have noticed since I've been using it, just from my personal experience, I find it to have a much more enjoyable draw.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah, and so that's been, since I got my hands on it, it's been my daily driver since. It's been really hard not to talk about it.
And there's some more fun things with the airport, besides it being a little bit longer, having more surface area, and having a taper to it to accelerate that velocity of the incoming airstream. The offset airport helps direct more of that air to spiral around the condenser, which allows the condenser to function more as it was originally intended, and that's as a heat exchanger between the vapor transiting through it and the incoming air around it. So now that incoming air spirals around that condenser, giving it more contact time in a longer effective path around and through the channel between the inside of the stem and the outside of the condenser, so that as that condenser is heating up, especially on a long draw, this incoming airstream can more effectively cool that and pull more of that heat out of that vapor stream. okay, without slowing down the vapor stream as it's transiting from the tip to the mouthpiece. So just kind of fun physics there. And the other thing that's really kind of useful with the airport being more of a longer hole versus a rounder hole, it allows for another method of modulation, and that's you can now slide your finger with the length of the device, or you can still rotate the device between your thumb and your finger. So now we have two ways of modulating the airport by obstructing it, in addition to the fact that we can also modulate our dilution air by how hard we're drawing air through the device.
Now, I know you really love your geometry, like the DynaVap. I've heard you speak at length about the geometrical aspects of that. Now, you still managed to throw that into this piece. Could you care to elaborate on that a little bit?
I love geometry. In fact, one of my favorite aspects of what I get to do now from a design perspective is create what I like to refer to as functional geometry, right? And that's a shape that's not just a shape, it's a shape that does something. And in some cases, our shapes do more than one thing. And that's really the ultimate objective, is when we can take the shapes of each of our individual components of our device and make them perform 1, 2, sometimes 3, 4 completely separate functions without any additional moving parts. And now we've got some really cool functional geometry. So here again, if we take a closer look, I'm going to pop a tip off so that we can zoom right in on the end of this. And so what we're going to see is as I try and catch the light here and get kind of a background, what we can see is there are a number of these cutouts as we're machining the body and the stem for this shape. And there's still 9 of them. But there's more to it than that. There's a lot of different numbers or we'll just call them sequences that have been embedded in this shape and this design. So whether you notice it or not, I think we've ended up with a rather pleasing shape. And it tends to really resonate with not only myself, but I think other people that have an appreciation for numbers.
Yeah, and I think it's a visually striking piece. It definitely catches the eye. It's something a little bit different than what we've had in the previous DynaVap lineup, and I think it's just absolutely gorgeous. And is there anything really that was difficult about making something like that because of the geometry and the angularity of it?
No, we spent about 3 minutes designing it, and it was done. Or not really, because really, name one thing that's easy that's actually worthwhile or satisfying. We actually put quite a bit of time not only into the design to get the airport geometry the way that it is, to get these grooves to line up and to create the surfaces and the interface that they do, to create the flats, because there's still some flats on here if you look for them. There's actually 3 prominent ones, right? So we're getting a number of cool things in here. But the biggest one is to create the shape and the profile that gives us that real tactile feel and that organic kind of appearance to it. It means that we had to cut, machine, and mill to a large extent across the grain and on many parts of this device, which means we chipped a lot of wood, right? We damaged a lot of wood. We cracked a fair amount, and unfortunately, even though we've got it more figured out now, it still creates not a small number of scrap pieces as we're trying to get this rather challenging shape. But we're getting there, and I think it's all worth it because it's just such a completely different look and feel than anything we've had before. I think it's all worth it.
Yep, and with that, we want to make sure that you take care of it. So that's actually what we covered on this week's episode of The Snap. Welcome to The Snap. This is a segment where we answer frequently asked questions in a very rapid-fire format. So let's get right into it. On today's Snap, we are going to be discussing HydraVonG maintenance. Now, for those of you that have received your brand new HydraVonG, you'll see it has all these beautiful ridges that enhance tactile feedback that makes your user experience much better. Now, to take care of it, you just need a few things. Your HydraVonG, some DynaWax, and some paper towels. First thing you need to do is pop off your tip and cap, and then take your digger outer from your cap, push out the condenser. I may be going over this part a little bit fast, but if that's too fast for you, be sure to check out our other videos on how to assemble your DynaVap. At this point, it's time to wax your wood. As we discussed in previous episodes of the Snap, it's important to keep your wood hydrated. To do that, just need some DynaWax. Take your DynaWax, apply a little bit to your fingertip, and massage it into those ridges. This will hydrate the wood, keep it nice and shiny, keep it moisturized, prevent it from cracking, and just keep it looking good and functional for a very long time. After you've massaged that into the wood, you need to let it sit and rest for a couple of hours. Once that's done, take your paper towel, wipe away the excess. At that point, it's time to reassemble. Put back on your tip, cap, and reinsert your condenser. And now you've just cleaned and waxed your brand new HydraVonG. Now it's time for the fun part. And that has been the Snap. I'm Retail Josh, and thanks for watching. Thank you for watching that. We hope you found it informative and helps you take care of all of your wood items. And so hope you like that. And so we're just going to digress a little bit. This past weekend, we were actually at the Functional Art Movement show, which was really enjoyable. It was the first local trade show that I got to go to. It was myself and a couple other members of the DynaVap team, and got to show some of the cool stuff that we were working on, got to show people the HydraVonG in person. We had this beautiful glass piece that Chris Casey made for us. More on that later. But it was neat to get to meet everyone, get to engage with our customer base, different businesses. Shout out to Robin, his dad, who came by. We talked for a while. It was really great meeting you. It was a really great experience. And in this next photo, we actually have Austin from Cycle Sam's Heady Glass out of Muskegon, Michigan. He just signed up to be a seller of ours. So if you're in that local area, be sure to swing by his shop. He now has our products. So stop in to Cycle Sam's Heady Glass in Muskegon, Michigan. And so as you saw that beautiful glass piece, we actually shot some footage of how it was made and the process of designing it. And so take it away, Ben. I'm Retail Josh. I have Chris Casey here from Compliant Technology. Right here, Chris, is our brand new HydraVonG. It is an American-made dry herb vaporizer.
I like the looks of this.
And so we want to pair that with a very special glass piece that is also made by an American glass blower. What kind of inspiration does that piece give you?
I love the texture on it. I think what this would go ideally with, and it's designed to go in water, so I think we're going to make a little short tube with a nice texture just like this. And because the DynaVap green is such an awesome color, I think we're going to use Illuminati. When you put it under a black light, it turns the DynaVap fluorescent green.
Excellent. We can't wait to see what you come up with, and we'll see you in a couple hours.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Rise up to the future, and know his place to meet ya. Right behind the grave. Don't pass it off like I'm to blame. When I know your pain, but things will never, ever be the same. Running for the flame, never burn no more. When I want no one's ever blowing up. Don't set you free, just set you up. Put me out of my fire. 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 Put me out of my fire.
Walked in, see this beautiful glass piece that you created for us. Could you go over a few of the details?
Sure. We made it about a foot tall. I really liked the pattern and the way this felt on the outside. So I really wanted to kind of emulate that on the stem. We've got a really nice, wavy, textured stem on it. We did a really heavy Illuminati around the mouthpiece. Also, we put a removable slide in it in case your slide breaks. It's really nice and convenient, and it should chug really well.
Excellent.
Another thing that we did do is put the UV reactive green on there, so when this thing's under a black light, it should really pop.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. Well, want to thank you very much, Chris, for coming in and making this piece for us. Once again, this is Chris Casey from Compliant Technology. You can find all the social media in the description below. Thanks
All right,
again, Chris.
Thanks again.
That's just pretty awesome, isn't it?
That was such a fun day of shooting. It was extremely hot in that room, but it was completely worth it. I've seen it at different trade shows and stuff, but to get to see a piece from the beginning to end and it getting made was awesome. And he was a great artist, fun to talk to, and he made us several different pieces, and one of them will probably actually be given away for a 10,000 subscriber.
Yeah, that sure would be a cool thing, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
If we could actually get our YouTube account to 10,000 subscribers, it seems like we're getting close. So if you guys can help us out with that, we'd really appreciate
Yep.
it.
And
And
so-
when we hit that, we're just going to pick one of the subscribers from the last few months. We'll get in touch with you, and we're going to send you something really cool.
Yeah, so be sure to do that. And if you notice in the footage, there was some like purplish tinge that was due to a polarizing lens, so that way you could actually see what he was working on, because the light from the torch is so bright that it kind of blinds you. And for those of you who haven't noticed yet, if you haven't gone to the website, all the HydraVonG products are actually on sale right now, 20% off. That's your stems, your HydraVongs, your HydraVonG XLS, your HydraVonG kits. Anything HydraVonG is 20% off until Tuesday, August 27th. So be sure to check it out. And we also have new merch here. We have some trucker hats as well as some t-shirts on there. So if you've been waiting for those, go to the website, pick them up. Now's the time. And we have some really good questions that came in. And by the way, we have a winner for our first one. What was the full username? It was Derek. So Derek in the chat, shoot your info to Coley@DynaVap.com. You got the STEM question correct. So shoot your digits and have your ID ready. She'll get that sent out to you right away. And so let's see what questions we have. I saw a whole bunch of them come in. Zippo usable. So you could use a Zippo, not unlike any other soft
You can
flame
use
lighter.
Zippo, you can even use a candle. The real challenge with a Zippo is, since Zippos tend to burn naphtha, actually, which is basically a real refined mineral spirits, the flame is going to have a lot of carbon in it. So if the yellow flame touches your cap, and when I say yellow flame, I'm not just talking about from a Zippo, I'm talking about from a candle or even a soft flame butane lighter. When the yellow part of a flame touches the cap, it's going to produce soot, because you're interfering with the combustion process when you impinge a flame in the yellow area. So you're definitely going to get soot. Your cap's going to turn black. It's going to work just fine, but it's going to turn black. Most of that soot will wipe off, but then you also get some other cool things that happen over time when you do utilize one of these more sooty heat sources, and that is you can actually impregnate some of that carbon right into your cap, which is made from stainless steel. It changes the chemical characteristics of the cap ever so slightly. The primary thing that you're going to notice is it's going to stay dark.
Almost similar to the nitrocarburizing process that was used on the Shadows.
Exactly. So there's some really fun chemistry that's going on there. It's not going to hurt anything, but it's going to change the way things look.
That's cool.
And so you can actually intentionally turn your cap black by getting it hot and getting it sooty and leaving that soot on there through successive heating cycles, and it actually drives that carbon to form chemical bonds with some of the various metals in the stainless steel alloy. And even when you clean it off, you can even polish it, and you can almost have a shiny black-ish cap.
That's neat. I never knew that, because I very rarely use a soft flame lighter, but that's good to know.
So just to kind of further expand on that, because it's some really interesting stuff. If you're going to use a soft flame butane lighter, if you bury the cap in the flame so all the yellow goes away and all you see is blue kind of wrapping around the cap, not only will it heat up much faster because you've got the flame contacting a larger surface of the cap, it won't turn black because you no longer have the yellow part of the flame touching the cap. And it also is more wind resistant because the cap is then closer to the flame. It's easier to control. So yes, the tip of the flame is generally hotter than the lower part and the bluer part, but if you bury that cap in the flame to make it all blue, it's going to heat faster and it's going to stay much cleaner.
And so let's see what other questions we have here. This is a really good one. How do you make the wood so shiny, George?
Oh boy. That's something that I've been working on for a while. I've thankfully had some really good help and focus from some of the staff, at HQ. We actually use carnauba wax. And it's a process that we've been working on to utilize carnauba wax and nothing else. Because the nice thing about carnauba wax, if you're not aware of this, carnauba wax is actually utilized in a whole lot of products that we as people eat.
Apples and...
Apples, fruit, most hard candies have a layer of carnauba wax on them, as do almost all pills, right? So it's food grade, it's totally edible. So it's safe, it's not going to cause any problems. The problem is, it's really, really hard. And so it's hard to get a layer of carnauba wax onto wood. So we've had to work on developing a technique to get that on there. And let's just say we utilize a type of media to help get it on there. But it also involves friction and temperature and a number of other variables that I don't know if I can really share at this point in time, but maybe we'll get into that a little bit more on a different discussion.
And then this is a question I like so much that you are going to be getting a HydraVonG sent to you as well. I have a question for George. If you had unlimited resources, what would your dream DynaVap accessory be? Law of physics may be suspended if it helps you answer. I think that's a fun one.
That is a fun one. Huh. It would be pretty cool if we could suspend the laws of physics. It means we could make a simple heating device that utilized something that stayed hot indefinitely. And now you'd have something that you could keep in your pocket when it's cold, and it would just kind of give off a nice soft heat. And when you wanted to heat your device, you'd take it out, open the lid, drop it in, it'd be hot, and it would heat up to temperature nicely. Something kind of like, plutonium, but without all the radiation. It's kind of fun.
Yeah,
or better than that, to make a body or a stem out of unobtainium would be just amazing, because then it could literally stay stationary wherever you placed it in space.
Is that from the core? That was not a good movie. And then here's one too. Will you find the airport easier to feel and find in the XLTI? So I think he's asking, are we going to do a similar improvement to the Omni line?
Well, I really like questions like this because I think it helps provide a little bit more insight in terms of who we are as a company and what our primary goal as a manufacturer is. Okay, we don't design our stuff and then send it off to some unknown factory in a foreign country to have it manufactured in large amounts where we then have to move huge amounts of product before we can introduce the next new iteration. No, we design our stuff in-house and we manufacture it as much as we possibly can in-house. And whatever we're not manufacturing in-house, we try to manufacture it locally so we can be directly interfacing with these other people and making sure that we've got a whole lot of input in terms of how things are being made and all the critical things, geometry, quality, things like that.
Able to control that supply chain
Exactly.
a little bit better.
So, point being, our products are in a state of near constant development and improvement, and at every convenient opportunity where, okay, yep, we can now implement these changes that we've been working on. Get it done. Let's spend a little bit of time on the CNC machine and reprogram some stuff, see if we can improve this feature or get it ready for the next iteration of the M or whatever it might be. So, is the Omni going to get improved? You're darn right it will. And even after we improve it, are we going to improve it again? Provided that our customer base gives us the opportunity to do that, absolutely.
Good.
We want to continuously improve all of our products.
And so here's one. Is a HydraVonG body coming?
That's a good question. And at this point, it's unknown, I think is the best way I can answer that. When we did kind of an analysis in terms of what we sell the most of the Vongs, it was the stems by far. It was probably 4 to 1.
Yeah, it was a high percentage.
Not that we didn't sell some of the body length devices, and they were nice. They fit in the standard stashes. I tend to prefer the shorter devices because they're easier to put in your pocket and just easier to generally handle. But when it comes to the Vongs that many people are buying specifically for their use in the water pieces, the extra length makes it easier to handle. If you're going to be utilizing the airport, it makes it easier to still utilize the airport if your device is deep into a fitting. Now, with the redesigned airport, I'm hoping that many people are going to try using these devices with the airport unobstructed. So please do that. Try it. No obstruction in the airport. Just try modulating how hard you're drawing on the device, and you might find that the device actually works in an unexpected and very satisfying way. So maybe we'll make some bodies if more people start asking for them. Again, we're also a very customer-centric business. We want to hear from you. Tell us what you want so we can incorporate that into what we're doing.
And so that, I think you kind of answered another question that I saw. Do you tend to use the airport open, feathered, or obstructed?
I think it's nice having it there in the regard that you can use it in all three of those manners. And depending on the point in time of the day, the point or the day of the week, the day of the month, what you're putting in the extraction chamber, all these other variables, it's very easy because of what, again, we'll get back to the user interface of the device for whoever the operator is to utilize this device in such a fashion where they can get the results that they're looking for. So the answer generally is yes.
And then this is one that I can take. Are left-handed people and Australians screwed up because of the auto-rotation tendency?
Absolutely. They tend to rotate in the opposite direction once we get below the equator.
And so I can say from personal experience, I'm a lefty. It works beautifully. I haven't had any issue.
Right,
And
but wait till you get to Tasmania. You're going to find that you're going to want to put it in your right hand, and you're going to rotate it the other direction.
Well, then DynaVap just has to send me there so I can test it. And then will we see a titanium stem or titanium mouthpiece that can act as a 10 or 14 millimeter adapter?
That's not an unlikely occurrence. We'll just have to see how long it takes to, finalize the development and get some additional development time and machine time so we can try it out. Because, there's generally three materials that we make our devices from: wood, titanium, stainless steel. And so making some new shapes and new functional things out of titanium, yeah, that's a real distinct possibility.
Yep. I want to give a shout out to Matt. It was a pleasure speaking with you and helping you out today. And then this is an interesting one. How long did it take to finally decide on the design of the new HydraVonG?
That depends on who you ask. In my opinion, as Jason and I were working on this, I'd say within a couple of days, it was like, you know what, that's it. It was so distinctly different that it's like, it's hitting me in such a way that, I have to really think about this. It means I'm hitting on something important, right? And when I show it to other people and I get the initial response, it's like, I don't know. It's like, that means we're going in the right direction. And I think that's kind of a key element of many aspects of good design is if it forces a person to really think about whether or not they like it. If it's not instantly, oh, I don't like it. If it's, I'm not sure, it means we've instigated something. And I think after more people had a time to become more accustomed to it, to touch it, to feel it, to utilize it, and really spend a little bit of time kind of analyzing this new geometry, all of a sudden it's like, you know what? Maybe it isn't that bad. Oh, now that you mention it, okay, now I see that, and now that I'm touching it and I'm utilizing it, it's like, oh, okay, now I see why you did that. So there's a whole lot more going on here than I think is easy to see when you're just looking at pictures or watching some of our video from a distance. And that's one of the challenges with our product is, since our product tends to be on the small side, it's really hard to show the details in a way that conveys the scale and the complexity.
And what kind of process do you go through to decide what improvements actually get implemented in a new device?
That's a really challenging question. And, it really starts with kind of making a short list. Okay, what are the key things that we want to change about a current device or design, right? What are the things that we either don't like or the things that we really do like that we want to retain? And so it really starts with a list, and from the list derives the plan, and then we try to prioritize, okay, this is something that we really, really don't like about our current design of a particular device, and we need to change it or fix it or improve it. Those tend to get the most priority. The things that we don't like.
Mm-hmm.
Because, if you don't like something, well, that's what needs to get the attention.
Mm-hmm. This is an interesting one. Is a lightwood stainable dyeable?
Absolutely.
Yep. And so that's something that we've done kind of some of the post-production with some of the chipped wood pieces. They'll test different dyes and looks and how they can create really unique aesthetics. Sometimes we'll actually post that on our Instagram, some of the unique stuff that they come up with.
And, if you'd like to work with these sorts of things, please send us a message, because we're happy to work with you and even provide you with some test pieces that you might be able to experiment with.
Yeah,
'Cause
definitely.
We like to engage with the community, and we're very, very happy for the maker community that's starting to emerge, making additional products and accessories for our devices. So if you've got ideas, I mean, seriously, we're not joking when I say this, reach out to us, get in touch with us. We want to hear from you.
That's one of the best things I think about the community that we have, is how we don't shoot down different ideas or people that they come up with. We like to include them in on the discussion and see what they come up with, because everyone
Absolutely.
has a different mindset in the way that they go to accomplish a task. And they may come up with something really, really innovative, and we want to spread that as much as we can.
Right, and if it's not just an innovation, it's planting a seed, right, for a change. Because sometimes it's just the subtlest suggestions that, hey, if you could do this thing, and it's like, well, no, we really can't. But now that you mention it, that presents a whole nother idea or concept for another modification that we can make, or another slight change or variant that leads to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. That's what's so fun about what we get to do, is we don't just get to manufacture things. We get to design and iterate and improve, and then put into production, and then get this wonderful feedback from everybody about the things that they like and the things they don't like. All right, throw it back into the mix and see what we can do to make further improvements.
And so before we wrap it up, there's a couple other questions that I'd like to answer. One that I think is a interesting one, because it's the way that it's phrased, best portable water piece. Like, that really comes down to what you look for. It's all what you want in a water piece. Personally, I don't think most of them are really portable at all. I think it's a bit of a misnomer. But if you enjoy using it, continue using it.
Well, I can answer that question. And in my opinion, it's this. Leave the airport open. Tell me what you think.
And so I think that's just, there's so many different ways with the analog nature of the device.
Right.
Use
Try
it
it different ways.
Yep. Use it how you enjoy it, and keep on doing it.
And keep experimenting, because the fact is, what works for you, great. But there's a whole lot of variations that you can try out that you're going to find might change the experience in ways that you appreciate, but at the same time might change the experience in ways that you don't appreciate, but at the same time, that's great, right? It helps give you a little bit of contrast. It's the sweet to go with the sour. It helps you better understand. And, occasionally if we don't end up experiencing things that aren't pleasant, how do we experience things that are more pleasant? We have to take a little bit of risk sometimes to see what it's all about.
And so one last question before we wrap it up. What other kind of wax can a person use if they don't have DynaWax on hand to keep their wood parts moisturized?
Well, that's a great question, and the best way I would answer that is, if you look at a wood conditioner, and there's a number of people, especially some of the people that make accessories for our products that they make, they're usually comprised of beeswax and some sort of food-grade oil, whether it's hemp oil or a food-grade mineral oil. Generally, as long as you're using a wood conditioner that's made from food-safe ingredients, it'll be fine.
And that's good to know. So that way, if you don't have DynaWax in a pinch, feel free to use it. So who are the rest of our winners here for the evening? So while they're sorting that out, I'm just going to go through a couple of things. Want to make sure that you subscribe and like the video. Ring the bell to be notified. So that way when we release more content, you're always up to date. And if you're already sharing the Dynaverse with people, join our affiliate program. Just email affiliate@dynavap.com for more information. Juan will get back to you and get you all sorted out. So want to thank you for doing that. And be sure to follow our Instagram page. We do giveaways every week on there. And you can see the community. We share different photos from the community and give shout outs, and really want to embrace that creative nature of the Dynaverse. We have the picture from Chronobist. We have a picture from the FAM show. George's little treasure hunt that he did. We just recently wrapped up Your Design Here on a Dynastash, having different artists create a design, and then they get to have that on a stash. And so one of the winners is JDog227. And so reach out to Colee, that's COLEE, at dynavap.com. Just have your digits and your ID ready, and she will get that out to you right away. One other thing that we need to discuss is next week. You notice most of the time we'll do a DynaVap Live every other week or every couple weeks. This time we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to be back next week on August 29th at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. And George, what are we going to be discussing?
Well, I think it's going to be a very interesting episode. We haven't done back-to-back, episodes week to week in quite a while, but we just had to kind of make an exception for this one. I think it's going to be a very magnetic episode. In fact, it might be electromagnetic.
Thanks for watching. For more videos, click here or here, and don't forget to subscribe.